My husband walked into our living room with his mistress on his arm and gave me 24 hours. Accept her as part of our marriage or leave with nothing. He thought I'd be too scared to fight back. He thought wrong. What I did next didn't just wipe that smug smile off his face. It destroyed everything he'd built. And you know what? I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Stay with me because this story gets wild. And if you've ever felt powerless, if you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever wanted to see someone get exactly what they deserve, you're going to love what happens next. Welcome to Reality Stories Hub. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. You know, sometimes I look back at old photos and I barely recognize the woman staring back at me. That was me 5 years ago. Smiling, dressed in designer clothes, standing next to a man I thought I knew. My name is Rachel, and I want to tell you a story. A story about how one moment can change everything. About how the people we trust the most can hurt us the deepest. But most importantly, about how we're so much stronger than we think we are. Before I get into what happened, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you were living someone else's dream? Like you were playing a part in a movie, but you didn't write the script? That was my life for 13 years. And I didn't even know it. I grew up in a small town outside Phoenix, Arizona. My dad drove trucks. My mom worked at the local diner, pulling double shifts to keep food on the table. We didn't have much, but we had love. We had each other. I worked my way through community college, then university. Got myself a degree in graphic design. I was working at a small advertising agency when I met him. His name was Daniel Foster. He owned a tech company that built software for hospitals. Started it from nothing and grew it into something massive. The kind of company that has offices in 5 different states. When I met him at a business conference, he was already successful, already rich. But he didn't act like it. He was charming, down to earth. He made me laugh. 3 months later, he proposed. A year after that, we got married in this beautiful ceremony overlooking the desert. I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. We moved into this massive house in Scottsdale. 5 bedrooms, a pool, a view that would take your breath away. 2 years into our marriage, we had our daughter, Lily. She became my whole world. Those tiny fingers wrapped around mine. Those big brown eyes looking up at me. I would have done anything for her. I did do anything for her. For the first 10 years, things were good. Really good. Daniel worked long hours, but he always came home. We took family trips to the beach. He showed up for Lily's school plays. He kissed me goodbye every morning. Sure, he could be demanding sometimes. He liked things done a certain way. But I told myself that's just how successful people are. They have high standards. Looking back now, I see the signs I missed. The little comments about my appearance. The way he'd check my phone sometimes, saying he was just curious. The way he made all the big decisions without really asking what I wanted. But when you're in it, when you're living it day by day, you don't see it. Or maybe you don't want to see it. Things started changing about 2 years ago. Daniel began staying at the office later and later. Business trips got longer. When he was home, he was always on his phone. Texting. Laughing at messages he'd never show me. When I'd walk into the room, he'd put his phone face down. When I'd ask who he was talking to, he'd say it was work stuff. Nothing important. My friends started giving me these looks. You know the kind. The looks that say they know something you don't. My best friend Jessica finally sat me down at coffee one morning. She held my hand across the table and said, "Rachel, I saw Daniel at that new restaurant downtown last week. He was with a woman. And honey, it didn't look like business." I told her she was wrong. I told her Daniel would never do that. But my hands were shaking as I said it. Deep down, I think I already knew. I finally checked his phone one night. He'd fallen asleep on the couch after drinking too much wine. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. And there they were. Messages to someone named Vanessa. Hundreds of them. Pictures I can't even describe. Hotel reservations. Plans for trips I didn't know about. One message from her said, "I can't wait until she's gone and we can finally be together." His response was a heart emoji. I confronted him the next morning. Walked right into his home office and dropped his phone on the desk. He looked at it, looked at me, and had the nerve to look annoyed. Like I was interrupting something important. When I asked him about it, you know what he said? "It's not a big deal, Rachel. Don't be so dramatic." Like my feelings didn't matter. Like 13 years of marriage didn't matter. Like I was the problem for being upset that he'd been living a lie. We fought that day. Really fought. I told him it was over unless he ended it. He promised me he would. Said he'd made a mistake. Said he loved me. Said our family was everything to him. And I wanted to believe him so badly. For Lily's sake, I told myself. But really, it was because I was scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of starting over. Scared of losing the security I'd finally found after growing up with nothing. 3 months passed. Things seemed better. Daniel was home more. He was nicer. I let myself breathe again. I let myself think maybe we'd survive this. That's how foolish I was. Then one Thursday evening in October, my whole world fell apart. And what happened next? Well, that's when I learned what I was really made of. I remember that Thursday like it was yesterday. Every detail is burned into my memory. I was in the kitchen making Lily's favorite pasta for dinner. She was at the table doing her math homework, chewing on her pencil the way she always does when she's thinking hard. The sun was setting through the window, painting everything in orange and gold. It was peaceful. Normal. Then I heard the front door open. Daniel called out, "Rachel, come to the living room." Now. Something in his voice made my blood turn cold. It wasn't his normal voice. It was cold. Businesslike. The voice he used when he was firing someone or closing a deal. I told Lily to stay in the kitchen and finish her homework. Then I walked into our living room. And that's when I saw her. Vanessa. Sitting on my couch. In my house. Wearing a tight red dress and high heels. She had long dark hair and too much makeup. And she was smiling at me. Actually smiling. Like this was all perfectly normal. I looked at Daniel. What is she doing here? He gestured to the armchair across from them. Sit down. We need to talk about our future. I didn't sit. I couldn't move. I just stood there, feeling like the floor was disappearing beneath my feet. Daniel sighed like I was being difficult. Rachel, I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us. About what I want. About what's fair. Fair. The word came out like a whisper. I care about you, he continued. You're Lily's mother. You've been a good wife. But I've also developed real feelings for Vanessa. Deep feelings. And I've realized something. I don't want to choose. The room started spinning. I grabbed the back of the armchair to steady myself. That's when Vanessa leaned forward, still smiling that horrible smile. What Daniel is trying to say is that we could all make this work. Lots of successful people have open marriages these days. It's very modern. I found my voice. Get out of my house. Daniel held up his hand. Let me finish. I'm offering you a choice, Rachel. You can accept this arrangement. Accept Vanessa as part of our lives. And everything stays the same. You keep this house. You keep your lifestyle. Lily stays in her private school. Nothing has to change. He paused. And I swear I saw something cruel flash in his eyes. Something I'd never seen before. Or, he continued, you can leave. But if you do, remember that prenup you signed? You walk away with the minimum. And trust me, fighting me will cost you more in lawyer fees than you'll ever win. I have the best attorney's money can buy. I couldn't breathe. This man I'd spent 15 years with. This man I'd built a life with. The father of my child. He was sitting here telling me to share him or lose everything. Vanessa spoke again, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. I know this is hard to hear. But maybe you're just not enough for him anymore. Some men need variety. It's nothing personal. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. But I just stood there frozen. Daniel looked at his watch. Like he had somewhere more important to be. You have 24 hours to decide. Tomorrow night at 7. I'll need your answer. Then he stood up, took Vanessa's hand, and they walked out. Out of my house. Left me standing there trying to understand how my life had just become a nightmare. That night was the longest night of my life. I lay in the guest bedroom, staring at the ceiling, tears running down my face. My mind was racing in 1,000 directions. Part of me wanted to pack up Lily and run. Just disappear. But where would I go? My parents were gone. I'd left my career behind years ago to support Daniel's company and raise our daughter. I had some money in my personal account, sure. But nothing compared to what Daniel had. Nothing compared to what it would take to fight him in court. He could drag things out for years. Bleed me dry with legal fees. Around 2 a.m, I called Jessica. She answered right away, her voice heavy with sleep. When I told her what happened, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Rachel, baby, what would you tell Lily to do if she was in this situation someday? And that's when something inside me shifted. I'd been so focused on what I'd lose that I forgot who I was. My grandmother used to tell me, never let anyone make you feel small. You're worth more than gold. I'd helped Daniel build his company. I was there in the early days when money was tight. I hosted the dinners that won him clients. I made him look like a stable family man that investors could trust. I'd given up my dreams to support his. And now he wanted me to bow down, to accept whatever scraps he threw my way, to let some woman half my age tell me I wasn't enough? No, absolutely not. I got out of bed and started making calls. First, I called my college friend Robert, who'd become one of the best divorce lawyers in Arizona. Then I started digging. Daniel thought I was just a pretty face who didn't pay attention to his business. But I'd been listening for 13 years. I knew things. Things he probably forgot I knew. By sunrise, I had a plan. And Daniel Foster had no idea what was coming for him. I didn't sleep that whole night. By the time the sun came up, I was sitting at my laptop with a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. My hands were shaking, but my mind was crystal clear. Maybe for the first time in years. Robert, my lawyer friend, called me back at 7 in the morning. I could hear the concern in his voice. Rachel, tell me everything. Don't leave anything out. I told him about the affair. About Vanessa. About the ultimatum. About the prenup I'd signed 13 years ago without really reading it because I was young and in love and I trusted Daniel completely. Robert was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Do you have access to any of your financial documents? Bank statements? Tax returns? Business papers?" "I have access to everything," I said. "Daniel keeps it all in his office. He never thought I'd go through it." "Then start looking," Robert said. "And Rachel, don't tell Daniel you're doing this. Don't tell anyone except me. We need the element of surprise." I spent that entire day going through Daniel's files. And what I found made my blood run cold, but also gave me hope. Real hope. First, I found our prenup. I'd signed it so long ago, I barely remembered what was in it. But there it was, clear as day on page 7. An infidelity clause. If either person cheated, the prenup became void. Daniel's expensive lawyers had put it in to protect him, probably thinking he'd never be the one to stray. Big mistake. But I didn't stop there. I kept digging. And that's when things got really interesting. I found bank accounts I didn't know existed. Properties listed under company names I'd never heard of. Then I found something that made my heart race. Email exchanges between Daniel and his accountant about moving money overseas. About creating fake expenses to avoid taxes. About hiding income from the government. Daniel had been committing tax fraud. Serious tax fraud. The kind that could land him in federal prison. I took pictures of everything with my phone. Every document. Every email. Every bank statement. My hands were shaking so badly I had to steady my phone against the desk. Then I found text messages I'd missed before. Messages between Daniel and Vanessa going back 18 months. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning my exit. Vanessa wanted to be Mrs. Foster. And Daniel had promised her that once I was gone, she'd get half of everything. They'd been scheming for over a year. One message from Daniel said, "Just a little longer. Once I get her to accept the arrangement, I'll have complete control. Then we can phase her out completely and you can have everything you want." I actually laughed when I read that. A bitter, angry laugh. He thought he was so smart. So in control. He had no idea he'd left a trail of evidence that would destroy him. I called Robert back with everything I'd found. He whistled low through his teeth. "Rachel, this is bigger than I thought. He's not just a cheater. He's a criminal. We can use this." "What do I do?" I asked. "We need to move carefully," Robert said. "We're going to file for divorce, but we're going to wait to serve him. First, I want you to act like you're considering his offer. Maybe even suggest a dinner to discuss the details. Make him think he's won. Make him comfortable." "I don't know if I can do that," I said. "I don't know if I can look at him without screaming." "You can," Robert said, his voice firm. "You're stronger than you think. And Rachel, when we're done, he's going to regret ever underestimating you." Over the next few days, I played my part perfectly. I called Daniel and told him I needed time to think. That maybe I was being too emotional. That maybe we could discuss this like adults. He sounded so pleased with himself. So confident. "That's my girl," he said. "I knew you'd see reason. You're too smart to throw away a good life over pride." I wanted to reach through the phone and strangle him. But instead, I just said quietly, "Can we have a dinner? Discuss how this would work. Maybe invite some people so everyone understands the new arrangement." Daniel actually laughed. "That's very mature of you, Rachel. See, this is why I married you. You're practical. I set the dinner for the following Saturday. Formal affair. I invited Daniel's 3 biggest business partners. His sister, who he was close with. His mentor, who'd helped him start the company. A few key people from his social circle. Daniel thought it was going to be some kind of celebration. Some kind of announcement of our new modern family. He had no idea it was going to be his execution. That week, I finalized everything with Robert. Got all my evidence organized and documented. Filed the divorce papers but held them back from being served. Made copies of everything in case Daniel tried to destroy the originals. I even hired a forensic accountant who confirmed what I'd found. Daniel had hidden over $30 million in offshore accounts. I also did something else. I hired a private investigator to follow Vanessa. And guess what? She was seeing someone else too. Some guy she'd been dating for 6 months. She was playing Daniel just like he was playing me. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Saturday night arrived. I got dressed in my best dress. Did my makeup carefully. Looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. But she was strong. She was ready. It was time to show Daniel Foster who he'd really married. Our dining room had never looked more beautiful. I'd spent hours making everything perfect. Candles flickering on the table. Fresh flowers in crystal vases. The good china that we only used for special occasions. Everything gleamed under the chandelier. Lily was at Jessica's house for a sleepover. I'd made sure she wouldn't be here for what was about to happen. She'd been through enough already. She didn't need to see this. The guests started arriving at 6:30. Daniel's business partners showed up first, looking confused but curious. His sister Amanda came next, giving me a sympathetic look that told me she knew more than she'd said. Daniel's mentor, an older man named George who'd invested in Daniel's first company, arrived with his wife. Daniel came down the stairs at 6:45, Vanessa on his arm. She was wearing a white dress. White. Like she was already the bride. Like she'd already won. The nerve of this woman. Daniel was practically glowing. He shook hands with everyone, played the perfect host. Vanessa clung to his side, smiling that fake smile of hers. I watched them from across the room and felt nothing. No sadness. No anger. Just a cold, clear determination. We all sat down for dinner. I'd hired caterers, so I didn't have to leave the room. We made it through the appetizers. Through the salad. People made small talk, though I could tell everyone was confused about why they were really there. Then, as the main course was being served, Daniel stood up. He picked up his wine glass, ready to make a toast. Ready to announce his great new arrangement to everyone. I stood up before he could speak. Before you start, Daniel, I have something to share with everyone. His face flickered with confusion, but he sat back down. Probably thought I was going to make some tearful speech about accepting the situation. About being mature and modern. I pulled out a folder I'd hidden under my seat. Robert had prepared copies for everyone. Beautiful, organized, damning copies. I walked around the table slowly, placing one in front of each person. Daniel's smile started to fade. Vanessa looked between us, confused. For the past week, I began, and my voice was steady as a rock. I've been working with a forensic accountant and my attorney. What you have in front of you is evidence of systematic financial fraud that Daniel has been committing through his company for the past 4 years. The room went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Hidden offshore accounts, I continued. Falsified tax documents. Money laundering. Page 8 has all the details. Page 12 shows $30 million he's hidden from the IRS. Daniel jumped to his feet. His face had gone bright red. Rachel, what the hell do you think you're doing? I ignored him and kept going. Page 15 documents Daniel's affair with Vanessa, including text messages where they discuss how to push me out and steal marital assets. Page 18 shows that Vanessa is also seeing someone else. She's been playing Daniel the same way he's been playing me. Vanessa's face went white. That's not true. There are photos, I said calmly. From a private investigator. You and some guy named Tyler. At his apartment. Multiple times. Daniel turned to look at Vanessa, betrayal written all over his face. It would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. George, Daniel's mentor, was flipping through the pages. His face was getting darker with each one he read. Daniel, please tell me this isn't real. I kept talking. Because of the infidelity clause in our prenup, which Daniel apparently forgot about, I'm entitled to 70% of our marital assets. I filed for divorce 5 days ago. But, I continued, and I let myself smile for the first time, I'm going to give you the same courtesy you gave me, Daniel. You have a choice. His face had gone from red to pale. He looked like he might throw up. Option 1, I said. You sign a fair settlement agreement. Fair child support for Lily. You sign over the house and the vacation property. You don't contest the divorce. And I walk away quietly. You can rebuild your business, though with your reputation damaged, it won't be easy. I paused and looked at George and the other business partners. Option 2. I turn all this evidence over to the IRS, the FBI, and every news outlet in the state. Your business partners here will face their own investigations because of their association with your fraud. Your company will be destroyed. You'll likely go to prison. Your daughter will visit you behind bars. Daniel tried to speak, but nothing came out. Vanessa finally found her voice. Daniel, do something. Tell her she can't do this. I turned to her. This is between me and my soon-to-be ex-husband. Security will show you out. Yes, I'd hired security. 2 very professional men appeared in the doorway. Vanessa looked at Daniel for help, but he couldn't even look at her anymore. She grabbed her purse and ran out, those expensive heels clicking against our hardwood floors. Daniel finally managed to speak. Rachel, please. We can talk about this. We can negotiate. You're right, I said. We can negotiate. You have 30 minutes to sign those papers, or I make the call to the FBI. Your choice, Daniel. Just like you gave me a choice. Amanda, his sister, stood up. She walked over to me and took my hand. I'm so sorry, Rachel. You deserved so much better. Then she looked at her brother with disgust and walked out. One by one, everyone else got up and left. George shook his head sadly. I taught you better than this, son. The business partners were already on their phones with their lawyers. Daniel tried threatening, tried pleading, tried explaining. But at minute 28, his hand shaking, he picked up the pen and signed. I took the papers, had them witnessed by Robert, who'd been waiting in the kitchen. And then I looked at Daniel one last time. You forgot something important, I told him. You forgot I helped build all of this. I was there at the beginning. You didn't do this alone. Big mistake underestimating me. Then I walked out of that house and never looked back. That was 8 months ago. 8 months that feel like a lifetime and like yesterday all at once. Let me tell you what happened after that night, because this story doesn't end with just me walking out. It ends with me walking into something new. Daniel's company is under federal investigation. Last I heard, he spent over $2 million in legal fees and counting. The IRS is tearing through his accounts. His business partners dropped him immediately. His reputation is destroyed. And Vanessa? She disappeared the moment she realized there was no money left to grab. Daniel tried to reach out a few times after everything settled. Apologizing, begging for another chance, saying he'd made terrible mistakes, that he still loved me. I blocked his number. I blocked his email. I blocked him on every platform I could find. I was done giving him access to my life. But this story isn't really about what happened to him. It's about what happened to me. The settlement came through after 3 months of negotiations. Even with his legal troubles, Daniel had enough assets to make good on the agreement. I got the house in Scottsdale, but you know what? I sold it. Too many bad memories in those walls. Too many ghosts. I bought a smaller place downtown. A condo with big windows and a view of the city. It's maybe a quarter of the size of that mansion. But it's mine. Every inch of it is mine. I picked out every piece of furniture. I chose every paint color. No one tells me what to do or how to do it. And that feeling is worth more than any mansion could ever be. I also did something I'd been dreaming about for years. I started my own design company. Remember how I said I gave up my career? Well, I got it back. I started small, just me and a laptop, working from my dining room table. But word spread. People liked my work. They liked my style. 6 months in, I hired my first employee. A young woman fresh out of college who reminds me a lot of myself at that age. Hungry, talented, ready to prove herself. The money isn't what it was when I was married to Daniel. I'm not going to lie about that. But it's mine. I earned it. No one can take it away from me. And that makes every dollar worth 10 times what it was before. Lily is doing better than I ever hoped. At first, I was so worried about how the divorce would affect her. What it would do to her to see her family fall apart. But you know what? Kids are stronger than we think. And kids know the truth, even when we try to hide it from them. She told me one night, about a month after we moved out, "Mom, you seem happier now. You smile more." That made me cry. Happy tears, sad tears, all mixed together. Because she was right. I do smile more. I laugh more. I'm more present with her because I'm not constantly walking on eggshells or wondering what Daniel's really thinking or feeling. She sees her father every other weekend. That's what the custody agreement says. Sometimes he actually shows up. Sometimes he cancels at the last minute, and I have to watch her face fall. Those moments break my heart. But I hug her tight and we make our own fun. We have movie nights. We bake cookies. We talk about everything and nothing. I'm teaching her something important, even if I'm not saying it out loud. I'm teaching her that you don't have to accept disrespect just because someone has money or power. That you don't have to stay in situations that make you feel small. That you can walk away and build something new. That you're stronger than you think. My relationship with money has changed too. Growing up poor, I thought money was security. I thought it was safety. That's part of why I married Daniel, if I'm being completely honest with myself. I was attracted to the stability, the comfort, the idea that I'd never have to worry again. But money without respect is worthless. Money without dignity is meaningless. I'd rather struggle and respect myself than live in luxury and feel like I'm nothing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not struggling. The settlement was fair, and my business is doing well. But even if I was struggling, I'd still choose this life over the one I had. Every single time. I think about my grandmother a lot these days. She died when I was in college, but her words stuck with me. She used to say, "Baby girl, remember this. You teach people how to treat you. If you accept less than you deserve, that's what you'll get." She was right. She was always right. Daniel thought he was giving me an ultimatum that Thursday night. He thought he held all the power. All the cards. He thought I'd be so scared of losing the lifestyle that I'd accept anything. He underestimated me completely. What he gave me was clarity. He showed me exactly who he was. And my response showed him who I really am. I'm not the woman who begs. I'm not the woman who accepts crumbs when I deserve the whole meal. I'm the woman who built herself up from nothing once, and I'll do it again if I have to. I'm the woman who knows her worth, even when someone else forgets it. So yeah, my husband stood in our living room with his mistress and gave me 24 hours to decide my fate. And I did decide. I decided that I was worth more than anything he could offer. I decided that my daughter deserved to see her mother stand up for herself. I decided that the price of my dignity wasn't for sale at any amount. His face went pale that night at dinner when he realized what I'd done. But mine has never been brighter. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If you're going through something similar, please know this. You are stronger than you think. You deserve respect. You deserve honesty. You deserve someone who sees your worth. And if they can't see it, that's their loss, not yours. Never forget what you're worth. And never let anyone make you feel small. My name is Rachel, and this is my story. This is how I took my life back.